What's going on YouTube, man? This your boy James Don Driver, Um, got a couple of videos for y'all, so just like, subscribe, check my channel out, I got a little bit stuff for everybody, so just check it out, and then just go from there. I really appreciate it, man, and I'm gonna show all y'all love. All right, peace.
We know that true crime about serial murder is dark and celebrity is not to say he's an admirable character. It's to say the way we talk about them, think about them, and represent other famous figures in pop culture. But in an era so saturated by media, does the line between actual crime and true crime start to blur? Serial killing has pretty much existed everywhere and always.
Monster, right?
Generally understood to be a murderer with 3 or more victims. Mass killers. Spree killers operate in a short time frame, and mass murderers are more interested in scale. Pop culture interest in serial killers is generally thought to have started with Jack the Ripper in the 1890s. The general cultural hullabaloo, but the fact that the term serial killer entered the law enforcement lexicon in the 19th of what has come to be known as the golden age of serial killing.
It's happened in New York. The son of Sam killer terrorized the city for months. With a .44 caliber revolver, he shot couples in parked cars.
Famously, John Wayne Gacy, Ted Bundy, the Golden State Killer, David Berkowitz, aka Son of Sam, Jeffrey Dahmer, BTK, Richard Ramirez, the Zodiac Killer, and others were all active during this period. Investigative historian Peter Vronsky claims that over 80% of American serial killers were active during this golden age. Why? This era generated a huge proportion of the true crime stories. What makes a serial killer?
You have to kill Aileen Wuornos because she'll kill again.
Quick facts. 92% of serial killers are male. Most commit their first murder between the ages of 20 outside of their ethnic group, but often target the opposite sex. Psychopathy and sociopathy are real conditions, but those living with them do not necessarily become serial killers. And not all serial killers are necessarily psycho or sociopaths.
Like an addiction, you keep craving something which is harder, something which gives you a greater sense of excitement.
But experts say that people who could be predisposed to violent impulses, like psychopaths are, can be socialized into acting on them. For example, if a kid with psychopathy is exposed to physical abuse at a young age, they may be more likely to reproduce this behavior themselves.
And what do you do to the animals, Beth?
They come with pants.
And since empathy might not come naturally to them, they may struggle to identify this behavior as wrong. Children who experience severe trauma can also develop patterns of emotional suppression that can lead them to victimize people later in life, struggling to feel empathy.
And talking to it. And I said, well, wait a minute. That's the old ink paintings and drawings of Viking heroes, enemies and leather bags.
This golden age, let's look at the timing. Men aged 25 to 34 in the 1970s were born in the 1940s and 50s. World War II and the Korean War destabilized many young families across the United States during these decades, as many people returned from war with immense trauma. Many men did not return at all, leaving behind young families with their own trauma, higher rates of poverty, and so forth. Experts have pointed to this wave of destabilization. Children were more frequently neglected or exposed to violence and abuse. Experts have also pointed to the Great Depression as having a similar effect. There are, of course, many different experiences of war and returning home. But for instance, Dennis Rader, aka BTK, Richard Cottingham, the Torso Killer, and Joseph D'Angelo, the Golden State Killer, all had war veteran fathers and deeply unstable families.
Person. My dad struck her.
Oversimplification to say that one thing directly leads to the other. But given the high rates of abuse and childhood exposure to violence reported by convicted serial killers of this era, a connection begins to emerge. Violence and trauma can cycle across generations.
When Richard's father would get mad, he would get the hammer and hit his own head.
He got mad and Richard, he beat the hell out of him. He would get my dolls, I remember, and he would always act like he was gonna poke out their eyes.
Other factors that experts point to when examining the Golden Age are the massive cultural shifts of the 1960s and 70s. Rising youth and countercultures led to more transience among young people, more runaways, more recreational drug use, more hitchhiking, more women traveling alone. In other words, the pool of potential victims simply grew. There were suddenly a lot of young people wandering the world alone, linking up with strangers, going on adventures, not necessarily wanting to be found. Draft dodging during the Vietnam War is also a factor here, as a lot of young people were traveling. This made it harder to identify them once they were found, or construction of the interstate highway in the 1950s is also a factor. Increased mobility, hitchhiking, isolated roads, lack of surveillance. All of these social and more easily killed.
I just stabbed to death and cut the throat of an innocent young woman. She was 19 years old, and her roommate in the trunk, who died right after that, was
has sharply declined in the 21st century. We are still producing and consuming media about this era of killers. Mindhunter, Extremely Wicked, Shockingly Evil and Vile, The Good Nurse, and Monster, the Jeffrey Dahmer story, are all examples of this fascinating nostalgia. As these stories keep coming back into circulation with younger actors, cooler aesthetics, and more violence, these real-life figures become further immortalized in pop culture memory.
That's so hot.
But the relationship between serial killing and celebrity culture doesn't just live in legacy. Serial killers, like the rest of us, are conscious of pop culture, Hollywood, politics, history, and so forth. These are the cultural factors that shape our social world, and celebrity culture is a part of that.
Was that Rick Dalton? Who? The guy from Bounty Law.
Who, Jake Cahill?
Yeah, that guy in the road was Jake Cahill. Rick Dalton played Jake Cahill in a cowboy show in the 50s called Bounty Law.
The showboating, performative Bundy trials where he represented himself and got married in court.
Daryl, do you want to marry me?
Or
I will marry you.
the Tate LaBianca murders being deemed the end of the 60s.
In a scene described by one investigator as reminiscent of a weird religious rite, 5 persons, including actress Sharon Tate, were found dead at the home of Miss Tate and her husband, screen director Roman Polanski.
These are pop culture moments as much as they are major criminal cases. And even during this golden age, serial killers themselves were aware of their notoriety, their overlap into celebrity culture.
Contrary to Section 78204 Florida statute, I'll plead not guilty right now, and you're...
During his peak as a celebrity murderer, Richard Ramirez signed his artworks Richard Ramirez, Night Stalker, reinforcing his public persona, his brand.
Do you think it's a little strange that these women are coming to see you?
No, because the majority is not necessarily correct.
Dennis Rader suggested his own title, an acronym for Bind, Torture, Kill, in his infamous letters to police. As Dahmer's murder pad was discovered by police in 1991, media rights were allegedly being sold within the hour. Exceptional acts and personas, public panic, and explosive media coverage converged to make killers into celebrities.
Why were you in the courtroom today?
I just wanted to see what he looked like. I think he's cute.
In the early 1990s, several factors came together to bring serial killing to the center stage of media. First, as we've already seen, the actual real-life problem of serial killing during this era. Second, the increasingly sensationalized coverage of these crimes, with identifiable figures and personas attached to them. The third is actually the release of The Silence of the Lambs, the book in 1988, then the movie in 91.
The 25-year-old daughter of Senator Ruth Martin, listed first as a missing person, is now believed to have been